Moving on, we have our very first keynote presentation on bringing a responsible hybrid cloud to where you are, a different perspective of hybrid cloud by Mr. James Allerton Austin. He's the Senior Director of Cloud Strategy, EMEA at Oracle. The stage is all yours, Mr. Austin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you particularly to Dr. Dua and the panel just now for setting up the lead in so perfectly just this moment. Can you confirm, Bridget, that you can see the screen that I'm projecting?
Yes, I can see the screen perfectly. Yes.
Perfect. There's nothing worse than talking about a screen that you can't see. So thank you. The reason for this session is actually to the point that Dr. Dua just raised at the end of that panel session, and that is, what is it that the pandemic brought to digitization and to cloud? And really, that move has really changed or brought to the front the capabilities that we believe at Oracle are critical to a cloud for all of our customers, regardless of the situation we are in, the new normal, or indeed the old normal, or practically the next normal. So what happens? What happens if there was a hybrid cloud that provided a set of applications, but also provided a set of infrastructure that was exactly the same as that which the applications were built on? What if it gave you the tools, all of the tools, for you to be able to build your own SaaS capabilities, to be able to go beyond the core of what is there, delivered as a software as a service, but build out the next generation of applications in which your organization survives and indeed thrives moving forwards? And really, that's where we started about 14 years ago with Oracle Cloud, to start with a set of applications and to build out a set of infrastructure. But over the years, we've obviously strongly invested in that space, and putting aside the individual areas, just coming to a place where the applications that you want to build are the things that we are providing the core infrastructure for. Now, as we mentioned during the panel earlier, there is more to building applications and gaining business value than simply having a set of services that you can use. When we consider hybrid, it's about bringing that cloud capability, all of it, over to where you are, reducing the number of compromises you make and maximizing the value that you can take from using cloud. Because if you are going to use it, there must be a direct advantage to doing so and a benefit that it brings to your business, whether it is a public cloud, a private cloud, or indeed a hybrid between a range of different capabilities that deliver that capability to your company. So moving beyond that, we start with an initial perspective, and that is meeting our customers where they are. So coming to you with a hybrid cloud. Now, what exactly do we mean by that? Well, firstly, relatively simple. If we think about cloud, we often think about public cloud, the idea of sharing a large data center with a number of other customers. And with that, despite the security that all cloud vendors build in and the capability that's there, we believe that we need to go beyond that. Number one, we need to be able to meet you where you are by bringing public cloud to regulated countries, to regulated industries, and particularly, for example, Saudi Arabia, where there are requirements to keep data very strongly within the boundaries of Saudi Arabia. Therefore, we must deliver public cloud for general use within the kingdom itself. Secondly, on top of that is delivering dedicated regions. And by this, we mean bringing the whole of the cloud, not a piece, not one rack, not 4 racks, but all of those services and capabilities to an address that you need, that helps you to address your data sovereignty needs. Perhaps it is because you want to have that data center very close to yours because you are gradually moving out. Perhaps it is because of the security constraints where you need to be completely in control. Well, that is something that we can do, and as one of the first perspectives. We add on top of that the ability to connect to other clouds, the Azure interconnect, which enables you to look at your estate today and say, I can take that workload, which is both one and a second enterprise organization software, and move it into an enterprise cloud, which actually comprises two clouds to give you the best of both worlds, no compromise. Fourth is around the capabilities. We talked briefly about performance, and of course, there are ways in which we can achieve greater performance by choosing the right hardware. And in our case, delivering Exadata, not only in our public cloud, but also where you need it as a cloud service, but in your data center. So giving you the choice as to how you take on cloud. And then finally, for those cases where, frankly, we're moving it outside of your data center, then again, the need to be able to deploy compute where you need it is where the roving edge comes in. But the key here is that initially, our first perspective is, how do I deliver cloud, but to the place where you need it as a company, not where we provide it, but where you need it. Perspective 2 moves beyond that and starts to talk about taking more responsibility as a cloud vendor. I mentioned earlier in the panel session that sometimes we consider cloud to be one thing, but a lot of responsibility comes with that choice. And as one of our friendly panelists mentioned, it's a shared responsibility model. In our case, we believe that perspective 2 should be that a lot of those capabilities should be the responsibility of the cloud vendor, because this is common to all our customers. And this is why we have invented autonomous database, a capability that allows us to take care of the software and the tuning and the operations and the backup and the restoration and the replication and the DR capabilities of your data capacity. Applying that same principle to the operating system with autonomous Linux, taking away your need to worry about how you keep these things up to date and secured and patched, because that is something the vendor does. Why? Because all our customers need it. Why should you be the one who has to do that when all of our customers need it? This is something we should be able to help you to achieve better goals by taking responsibility. Number 3 is introducing Cloud Guard. And from a security perspective, helping you to not always keep an eye on your security, but to notify you when something changes, to be able to help you to identify ways in which we can improve security, maintain configurations. And then taking that pattern and applying it in maximum security zones, which allows you to trust. Simply say, I'm going to put my application in there, and these are the rules of security that will be applied across the piece. But the key here is that security is built in from the ground up, not something that you have to turn on or take responsibility for, but it's on by default. And it's not something for which you have to pay, because it's something that you should expect from every single vendor that you have. Perspective 3 is very much around being designed for the most performance-focused, demanding workloads, delivering flexible infrastructure where it's not just a number of shapes, but precisely the shape you need. You need a lot of compute, not too much memory, fine. You need a lot of memory, not too much compute, again, fine. But this is about meeting our customers where they are, where you are, in fact. Bringing the right shape of compute, bringing the capabilities that you enjoy on premise today, real application clusters and Exadata. Why can't you use that in the cloud? Well, you can. Offering you bare metal, much as you enjoy at home in your data center, because there should be no compromise. And then finally, where for those customers with a large private cloud investment in VMware, giving them the route or more than one route to be able to move that to the cloud, to be able to lift it and move it across and combine that private cloud with the power of the public cloud as well. Now, when we think about perspective 4, we think about where and how we're going to offer that in terms of the regulations that we need to adapt to. And again, during the panel, there were mentions of PCI and ISO and SOC and a whole range of capabilities. Now, these capabilities are very much regulation and certification based, and we believe that we should be able to holistically provide you with global, regional, and local capabilities as far as security accreditation is concerned. So that is at the heart of what we do within that particular cloud. And then perspective 5. When it finishes off, it really comes down to this. The opening question of the panel was very much around performance. What do we mean by performance? And of course, what we actually mean by performance is not just outright speed, but the ability to predict that that will happen. And with all predictions, we need to be strong and sure in that predictability. So Oracle Cloud offers not just availability as a service level agreement, but also performance in terms of the outright performance. So you can predict how your applications will work in the cloud in the same way that they work right here on premise today. So where are we going? Why do I bring these things up? Well, what are we going to do with that? It's all very well, but this is something that we absolutely focus on today. And our continued direction is to grow out, to start with principle number 1 or that area number 1, perspective number 1 is, yes, we are around 30 different locations today combined with Microsoft Azure. And yet our direction is to come closer, to come and meet you more as we move on with our plans, for example, to deliver a second data center within Saudi Arabia to help to not only get closer to you and your needs, but also to match those regulatory requirements you have today. Secondly, when we come to think of it, we're taking greater responsibility for the workloads that are running on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And in this case, using the autonomous capabilities to drive out faster performance, but also to drive down the cost of operation, because not everything should be your responsibility. When we look at Siemens taking on complex projects and really helping our customers to drive down the cost of ownership and the cost of operations to, again, get better business performance without having to invest a huge amount of administration and effort to put that in place. Then, of course, driving the stronger performance outright, so getting faster. And when we look at the kinds of capabilities that we have, the ability to not just deliver performance in terms of compute, but also in terms of the business. When we look at Cisco being able to deliver a much better performance with a significant lowering of costs, or indeed with 8x8, a video streaming, much as we're using today, a capability for video conferencing, which has really changed its performance figures, having improved performance, but also having driven down economic performance in terms of driving down the cost by 80%. Then when we go beyond that and thinking about how we can meet you where you are, we're finding new ways, even better ways of meeting you where you are as well. Whether it is using Cloud at Customer by bringing an entire OCI data center region to where you need it, the address you need, with only you inside it. Or whether or not we're at the other end at Intel, as an example, of cutting costs by 50% by enabling you to lift your VMware estate and move it into a public cloud environment and be able to start to take on capabilities within cloud, regardless of where we are, how we're focusing on these. We believe that when it comes to bringing a cloud to you and gaining true performance from a hybrid cloud, we have 2 things that we really focus on. Number 1 is bringing it to where you are, matching your needs. And then secondly, offering you additional levels of responsibility from us as a cloud vendor to make sure that you can focus on what's really important, the goals of your business as we move off into a completely new normal that probably none of us have fully charted yet. And with that, I'll say thank you very much for your time and pass back over to our lead. Bridget, over to you.
Yes, thanks, James. Thanks, James, for the presentation. In fact, was indeed very, very insightful. So yes, we do see a few questions from the audience. However, due to the restriction of time, probably we could send that over to you so that you could address them personally and send it across. So certainly we'll share those. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, Oracle, one of our sponsors, in fact, lead sponsors of the event, do request you to visit their booth and also to see what Oracle has to offer when it comes to hybrid cloud. Thank you so much there, James, again for the presentation.